Okay, this is John from Clock Repairs Merseyside again. Right, this is the back of the clock you've just seen. I showed you the front of and the strike inside of it, and the strike, the strike train and the time train, obviously from your front with your dial off. Now, this is the back, and as you can see, it's pretty plain. There's not much to sort of write home about the back. Anyway, at the top here, we've got the what's called the back cock, and that suspends your pendulum going through like a letterbox. I mean, this particular one, it's had a piece put on it and it's got a nut on it to adjust that foot one way or another, and I'll explain what that's about in a second. So it just pretty much, your pendulum hooks through there and it hooks at the top on your back cock like that. Now, obviously your back cock as well, you can make all sorts of adjustments to get your depth and right on your escape wheel, and obviously, that gives, it helps your clock, obviously gets it right, ticking away and stuff like that. Your next exit and entry of your pallet, in other words, into your escape wheel, quite important. Often they're pinned on that, which they will get pinned before it goes out when it's right. And you go down and there's your time train. As you can see there's been a little bit of bushing done, some of it not really great. As I say, this clock is on test at the minute and it's going to get some certain things finished off and done. And it goes down, as I say, right down to your pendulum, and there it is. Now, same thing applies. Now I'm going to put the amplifier on, our guitar amplifier, the ones that you see people playing busking in the street with a clip-on pickup on it. Now, as you can hear, that's picking the beat up. Again, I've got it in the way of the strike. I mean, obviously it would be better, if I'm honest, probably down here. It's not as loud, but you can still hear it. Now, to me, that sounds pretty close. You've got a more of an even tick, tock, tick, tock. I mean, you don't want it to be tick, 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 or tock, 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 or anything of that nature. That's pretty much the sound you want. Now, this, the piece of wire, I'll call it for now, the piece of wire hanging from the back cock is the crutch wire. Now, that is sort of bendable, if you like. So say, for instance, I bent it a bit this way. Now, can you hear the change of the beat? It's going off a bit. If we adjust it back there. Now, what you're going to find is, say we get it to tick to there. Can you hear that? It's well off. Now, that clock will certainly stop at some point. There's no way that is going to carry on like that. And simply what you've really done, in effect, is you could get the same effect by this seat board lifting it one end or another. You'd do that, you'd get a similar effect, but instead, because often you're putting a grandfather clock in a house and you don't know whether the floors are straight or not, so you'd adjust this back cock. Now we'll bend it back. A bit more. You hear it getting closer. And the same effect if you go the other way. A bit closer, not perfect yet, but you get the idea. And that's how you put that's one way of putting a grandfather clock in beat. Also, this foot we were talking about, now this one is on a nut and bolt. I mean, obviously, again, it's been put on, it's not really finished very well, but it is what it is. Usually that foot comes sort of central to that block on your pendulum leader, should we say. There's like, obviously you've got your suspension spring there, and you've got a block, and then, you know, your foot, the sort of letterbox, should we say, in the foot. If I can just get underneath and show you that, you know, it goes roughly to the center. Now also you can actually move that foot around, twist it. Another way of putting it in beat. It gives a very similar effect to bending it, and you know, you'll get the clock in beat. Another way you can do it is actually, you know, if it's not so badly out, you can put a couple of coins underneath the feet on the grandfather clock case. You can put a couple of coins underneath your seat board, on the shoulders of the grandfather clock case. I mean, it's all about getting that in a position whereby it's in beat. But the other problem can be if it's so far out of beat, and then you try to adjust by putting coins and bits of whatever underneath legs and stuff like that, you can actually make it look lopsided. So you can look at the dial and it'll look lopsided, because it's not that's lopsided, it's the fact that, you know, your floor could be lopsided. So you've got to look and work out what, I mean, from a clockmaking point of view, that's what you've got to do. I mean, you should be able to get it in beat and get it right. You know, it should be dead straight, and you should get it that way. You know, it should look okay. But one of the reasons I'm doing this video as well is for my customers. I mean, often, I mean, I can just say, go onto YouTube on one of my videos and you'll see how you put a clock in beat. But when customers come to my workshop, I always give them a demonstration of how to do all this, to be honest with you. And, you know, they go away and they're quite happy. And you know, I've learned them a bit, and they're quite happy to, you know, have a fiddle about. Also now what we're using a lot of now is FaceTime and stuff like that. I've got this is an iPhone, customers FaceTime us, and you know, we can get a lot done with that. I mean, it's modern technology, and we're dealing with very old clocks, but you know, you've got to do what you've got to do. But yeah, that's the back of the clock, and that's how you would get it in beat. Another thing that you know is a good thing to do when you service a grandfather clock, without it having the pendulum on. Let's just give us 2 seconds and I'll show you what I mean. You will get that sort of effect. If you take your pendulum off and your clock is pretty much where it should be, you're going to get that crutch wire to move about a bit. You know, now that will give you an indication that this part up the top, this back cock, is actually in a good position. I'm not over happy with that, to be honest with you, but anyway, you know, it might need some more adjustment, to be honest with you. But yeah, that's a general plan. Now that setting up like that works exactly the same for this clock. If you look at the back of there, you've got the very same arrangements, and the theory actually works on mantle clocks and, you know, various clocks like that. I mean, you know, it's not just exclusive to grandfather clocks. I mean, you've still got, you know, a crutch wire, you've got a suspension spring on a mantle clock. It's pretty much the same. I mean, obviously the easiest way with the mantle clock, really, if it's not too far out of beat, is to put 2 coins or something under each corner. A couple of 2p pieces is always good under each corner to lift it up. We don't say about cardboard, because cardboard gives, and you know, you know, you end up back in a similar position to where you started, and you shouldn't really use cardboard with grandfather clocks. They're far too heavy for all that. But yeah, a couple of coins, they don't give. I mean, obviously, if a grandfather clock is on carpet, you need to put it on a board. You don't need to have it on carpet. It's got to at least have a board underneath it, and then you've got to go through all what we've said. Often when we pick grandfather clocks up, we'll check about, see what the floor's like, we'll have a look, and then we'll make a decision whether to get it. You know, we'll cut a board for them. We'll then measure the skirt, what I call the skirt on the clock, and where the legs are, and we'll sort of cut a board, and we'll leave it about half an inch all the way around so it's not unsightly, or people, you know, hit the toe on it as they're going towards the clock. So we'll do that. Also, another good thing with a grandfather clock is really they should be screwed to the wall, being honest with you. You know, all them holes you see in the back of clock cases, I mean, that's the amount of times it's probably been moved, to be honest with you. I mean, them holes indicate the amount of times it's been screwed to a wall, which is, you know, as you can see, it's very, very often. And you've got to understand, I mean, how long these clocks have been about, you know, since the middle to late 18th century. I mean, you know, they've probably been round the block. I mean, obviously the maker's name, such as William Jones on that one, obviously that came from Wales. It's now in Liverpool. I mean, God knows where else it might have been, although the family say it's been in their family for, you know, as long as they can remember. But more often than not, if you think about it, 1760s, 1770s type of era, it's probably been in someone else's family 100 years before that, you know, and this is the thing. So, you know, they've been around a bit. So yeah, that's generally pretty much how you can get a clock in beat, really. I mean, spirit levels and things, I mean, yeah, you know, that's fine, but I mean, again, you got to think to yourself about these older clocks they've been in. They've been around for a long time, and you know, the likes of the seat board, I mean, they come in and sometimes the seat boards are twisted and all things like that. And you know, so really we just go by, we listen to it and we get as even tick-tock as possible. There's another way of doing it, by where your pendulum is, making a mark on the wall at a central point of where your pendulum, sort of say the bottom of the screw. And so say you put a piece of masking tape, you often see it inside clock cases, actually put a piece of masking tape inside the clock, mark your central point, go from one side, see where it ticks, mark that, go to the other side, see where it ticks, mark that. And obviously the distance from the centerpiece either side, so the distance to one point and the other point should be equal. Now, if that's equal, the clock is pretty much in beat, isn't it? I mean, so that's another good indication. I mean, you know, we have all these things in our arsenal because, you know, sometimes you go out and, you know, the floor's, you know, never been straight in its life. And, you know, so you've got to have every idea of how to get this clock dead right. I mean, really for me, I think a real important thing is put a board under it. Get a board and put the board under it, and then, you know, you're closer then, aren't you? At least you've got some good stability then. You know, often as well, grandfather clock cases, I mean, the legs have been trimmed off, or, you know, there's all kinds. You've just got to have a good idea of what you're going to do in most cases. But yeah, I mean, grandfather clocks like this, I mean, I absolutely love them, you know, I really do. I mean, very well made. You know, some of the finishing on some of them, I mean, these are not particularly great. I mean, the finish on these, but you know, I've seen some absolutely fantastic stuff. I mean, I'm from very local makers. That's why I mentioned before in the other video, you know, London makers, they were given all the credibility of everything. But, you know, there's some fabulous provincial makers. I mean, I've seen some absolutely fabulous clocks, which the finish on them, I mean, you know, the way they've rounded, you know, things off and they've finished off, and some of the engraving, I mean, you know, it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, worthy of any London clock, really, to be straight with you. Really decent stuff. So, you know, some fine provincial makers, Anyway, this is John from Clock Repairs Merseyside, just signing off. Hope you like these videos. As I say, I always say, please give me a like and subscribe. I need them views, and it encourages me to do more and more videos. Every time I get a bit of free time and I'm in that mood, I'll get my phone out and see can I find something of interest to show you. It's a bit of a mixed bag what I do. I hope you like it that way. At least you're not watching the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. I try to mix it with everything if I can. something that you may not know. I'm sure a lot of you out there, some of the comments I got and some of the people I do actually talk to on YouTube, I do know that they're right up there, and often I will ask them for a little bit of a hand with something, because let's face a few facts, there's some absolutely fantastic people out there who know the stuff, but they're just not sort of trading in that way. But you know, there's no doubt about it, they're absolutely fantastic. Anyway, thanks to everybody up to now for subscribing and liking my videos. We're getting as far as Australia now. We've got a lot of followers in India, so yeah, let's just keep it going. And if there's anything you want me to cover and I can cover it in a short video, we'll do that. That's my whole plan is to get the interest out there of people. I want people to you know, I want people, that's the amplifier turning off. I want people to get interested in our old, I'm so passionate about my horological past. I mean, you know, I want it to be here for future and future generations. I mean, quartz clocks, I mean, I really, I just don't see anything in them. I really don't. I mean, to me, it's not a clock, is it? It's not a clock. Anyway, this is John from Clock Repairs Merseyside, signing off. As I say, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. And thanks to everybody who has subscribed and liked up to now. Thank you.